What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas Nemeziz 17.2 in the launch Dust Storm Pack colorway. Now this is the first takedown model below the two top-end boots in the Nemeziz line, both the 17.1 and the 17 Plus. This guy, being the first takedown model, still has a fairly steep retail price of $140. It does incorporate some elements from the higher end models and obviously looks a lot like the higher end shoes, but there are some key differences that make this a decent takedown model, but still a questionable value given the higher retail price. So we're gonna go over all of the details in today's video. So if you wanna learn more, stick around and watch the entire thing. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $140 retail price. Now it's a takedown model, so they don't come with any extras. All you get in the box are the shoes themselves. The shoes though, what are they all about? If you guys didn't see my video on the 17.1, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen to the play test so you get to see the shoes in action and learn a little bit more about the shoe, because this is kind of, I guess, the closest thing to that particular shoe, but there's also some pretty key differences as well. So you're gonna find that the upper doesn't actually use any of the agility bandages, aside from this strip right here that runs across the top of the foot, kind of in the collar area. Really has nothing to do with the fit or overall performance of the shoe. It's more of a visual thing, but that's really the only real agility bandage you're gonna get here. You can see the shoe for the most part has the same look with the Nemeziz branding and all the stripes there that would normally be agility bandages, but these stripes are simply just printed on the surface of the upper to give it the look of agility bandages without actually being agility bandages. And you'll notice what is kind of interesting is that it says agility bandage right there on the medial side of the shoe. And keep in mind as well that Adidas does a pretty poor job of clearly defining tech specs with their takedown models and sometimes even with their high-end models. So while this might be listed as a shoe that has agility bandages, if you know what agility bandages are, you can clearly see that there aren't any on the shoe. Instead of agility bandages though, you do get a carryover element from the top-end model, and that is the torsion tapes, which basically is where you see the Nemeziz branding. So you have the torsion tape on a diagonal that cuts across the midfoot, as you guys can see, running right there as well, and then the piece that runs through the heel. It's not technically the same torsion tape as what you'll find on the high-end model. It's called simplified torsion tape on the 17.2. Not sure exactly what that means because it looks and feels pretty much the same to me, but just know that it is technically different according to Adidas. And then the rest of the upper is their agility mesh material, which is technically kind of a carryover from what you get from the top-end model. It's not the same agility knit material that you'll find on the top-end shoe. This is more like the prime mesh we've seen from Adidas on takedowns in the past, and the quality is actually quite good. It's a mesh-based synthetic with a fuse overlay that's soft, it's thin, it's flexible, it doesn't feel bad at all, and it makes up the toe box forefoot area of the shoe, pretty much the entire midfoot aside from where the laces are positioned through the middle, which we'll talk about in just a second, and then the little strip here at the heel, which has an internal heel counter, so it's not really all that important. But for the most part, it's a thin, soft, fairly premium feeling material. It does not feel cheap on your foot whatsoever. And overall, the quality of the upper is quite good, but that should be expected if they're gonna ask $140 for these guys. So in terms of touch on the ball, I would actually say that these feel a little bit thinner than what you would find from the 17.1 or the 17 Plus, just because this agility mesh material is just thinner than the agility bandages that you would normally have kind of overlapping the midfoot and area of the shoe. Whereas I would say that the agility knit 2.0 that you'll find on the higher end model is a little bit nicer than this at the toe, but nonetheless, it still is a good quality upper that offers a nice touch on the ball, just a little bit thinner than the higher end boots like I mentioned. Now, of course, this does have a lacing system. It's not laceless like the 17 Plus, pretty much the exact same lacing setup you'd find on the 17.1. And then through the middle, it does actually have an elasticated material, so there is some stretch through the central part of the upper, which is great when you're actually putting them on, but obviously the laces are there to secure everything in place, lock your foot down, and you get a good secure sensation overall when you do pull the laces tight on this particular shoe. It is a low cut shoe, at least I would consider this to be low cut. It doesn't really feel like anything other than that. You get the extension elasticated piece like I mentioned, which is the only true agility bandage you'll find on this particular boot. You have this little V cut that people are concerned about. Doesn't really feel noticeable at all when you're wearing them. Internal plastic heel counter, which is normal, just like you'd find on the higher end boots. The internal heel liner is also pretty much the same as the higher end models. It's a nice synthetic suede material with a good amount of padding, although the fit in the heel and the fit in general is a little bit more shallow than what you'll find from the 17.1 as well as the 17 Plus. This is a common occurrence with Adidas takedown models, and if you guys saw my video on the Nemeziz 17.3, if you didn't, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen. My main complaint with that shoe is that it had a very, very shallow fit in the heel area. This is not quite as bad. It's definitely passable in terms of overall quality of the fit, but it is definitely more shallow, and I would say quite simply not as good as the higher end model. So that is definitely worth keeping in mind. The insole, for $140, you would expect it to be removable, but it's not. It's glued in. You could pull it out if you really, really wanted to, but it's not exactly necessary. But you do expect a removable insole at this particular price point. You get it from pretty much any other brand, so I'm not sure why Adidas didn't include it at the $140 price point on the Nemeziz 17.2. And then moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, it's technically not the same torsion frame that you'll find on the higher end models, even though it looks very similar. It doesn't look cheap at all. It's all translucent, as you can see, but it's actually a thicker, heavier, stiffer plastic material that obviously has the same base design, but doesn't have quite the same feel. It's just more rigid, stiffer, and this does impact the weight of the shoe as well, which we'll get to in just a second. And of course, you get the new FG-AG stud pattern for the Nemeziz line that actually works quite well. It's the same layout you'll find across the entire Adidas brand, kind of like a half circle shaped stud. Fairly aggressive, but still have that freedom to twist and pivot. Probably my personal favorite stud pattern from the entire Adidas lineup at the moment. So big fan of this stud pattern. Not quite the greatest sole plate in comparison to the higher end models. A little bit stiffer than I would personally like it to be, especially considering how soft and flexible the upper is on your feet. Now, in terms of weight, in a size 9 US, this is again a huge difference when comparing it to the top end model, which the one above it, the 17.1, retails for $225. So it's not a gigantic price jump. Anyways, 9 US, these guys weigh in at 9.7 ounces versus mid 7 ounces or closer to 7 ounces with the 17.1. So you're about 2 ounces more with this particular shoe. 3 ounces more, sorry, I'm very bad at math. You're almost 3 ounces heavier in the 17.2 versus the 17.1, which is a noticeable amount of weight. It's one of the first things that I notice when I put these on my feet is they don't feel nearly as light. It has a shallower fit, and the sole plate just feels more rigid and less natural in comparison to the top end model. So that's kind of what you're missing out on with the 17.2. And I think for a lot of people who are interested in this style of shoe, especially if you have $140 to spend, if you want something thin and light, this isn't necessarily going to provide the light part of that deal. It's going to have the thin part, but not going to feel quite as light. And at $140, you have some really solid options as far as what's going to fit into your budget. Not only shoes at full retail, but also top end models that are marked down to $140, which is not super, super cheap. You can get a lot of previous colorways and previous models marked down top end boots that are going to be better quality than this at $140. So just keep that in mind if you were planning on picking these up. As far as the colorway is concerned, I guess the general look of the shoe, they don't look cheap. These can easily be mistaken for the 17.1, I would say. Obviously, there are some minor differences. If you get up close, you can see the details in the differences with the material at the front of the shoe. Obviously, you don't have the agility bandages running through the midfoot either. But for the most part, just like the 17.3, I think the shoe looks pretty premium, and I'm a fan of this design in general. I know not everybody likes the look of the Nemeziz with all the stripes, but I think it looks pretty cool. Let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. That is enough about tech specs though. Let's take a look at how these things fit and feel on feet. So you can see on the right shoe, I actually swapped out the stock laces, which are black and white, for some white and black grid pattern SR4U replacement laces, which look really cool on this particular shoe. It kind of matches the pattern a little bit, and they blend in a little bit more. So if you guys are interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, The website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in a pair, be sure to go ahead and check that out. So putting them on, pretty straightforward. Again, once you loosen the laces up, you have the elasticated part through the middle, which makes getting them on pretty easy. You'll find that this top piece kind of bunches up on you, so you have to adjust that once they're on your feet. That's not really a big deal at all. You also don't have the silicone on the underside of this like you'll find on the higher end shoes. That's not really a big deal at all. Something you really won't notice when you're wearing them. Gonna throw this one on. Again, you'll see how it kind of just bunches up, so all you gotta do is just kind of fix it. It'll bunch up a little bit as you're playing in them. That's kind of inevitable, but something you kind of have to live with this Nemeziz design. Just gonna tie these up. You can feel when you do tie the laces that everything really becomes more solid and secures the foot in place, which is really nice. And here is a look at the shoes on feet. So again, the first thing that I really noticed with this shoe is one, the feel of the upper is good. It's soft, it's flexible, it feels a little bit thinner than the 17.1, which I guess is the main boot you would compare this to. And then two, the fit in the heel is just a little bit shallower than I would like it to be. Not to the point where I feel like my heel is slipping, but to the point where it just doesn't feel 100% right. If you put this on versus the 17.1, I think 10 out of 10 people are gonna feel like the 17.1 just has a little bit of a better, more secure fit in the heel, just because it's ever so slightly deeper. Again, it's kind of a minor complaint, but it's something that I'm just so surprised that Adidas can't get right with some of these takedown models. So something to be aware of if you are planning on picking these up. Otherwise, the shoes feel really good out of the box. The sole plate's a little bit stiffer than I would like it to be, and they definitely don't feel as light as the higher end boots either, but for the most part, they're comfortable and shouldn't require too much in the way of break-in time. As far as the width is concerned, it's got, I would say, a little bit more of a tighter fit in comparison to the higher end shoe, just because it's not as premium of materials used overall. I think that the agility bandages, because they are kind of elasticated, it allows the shoe to feel a little bit wider on your feet in comparison to these. So still, I think they're gonna be suitable for most people. If you have really, really wide feet, maybe not the best option, but I think most people will fit into these without any issues at all. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So that is pretty much it, guys, for my review of the Adidas Nemeziz 17.2, the first takedown model in the new Nemeziz lineup. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can click the little eye in the corner of the screen or the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $140 retail price. If you have any questions regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comment section, and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.